This week on Arizona Illustrated, El Dia de San Juan.
Summer rains are so much a part of the history and the cycle of life of the desert.
The smell of rain.
Water is sacred to us. Water is life.
The back road to Mount Lemmon.
Some parts of it were really narrow and there wasn't room for 2 lanes of traffic on it.
And the Arizona summer poppy. Welcome to Arizona Illustrated. I'm Tom McNamara. As we all know, water is a precious resource, particularly here in the Southwest. And when the rains fall, the desert comes to life. Now, each year on June 24th, the Tucson community gathers for El Dia de San Juan Fiesta, a celebration of the monsoon and the feast day of St. John the Baptist. Here's a look back at the fiesta from 2017.
June 24th is the Catholic feast day of St. John the Baptist, and according to local tradition, this day helps mark the beginning of our monsoon, with a community celebration and prayers for rain.
Con eso les quiero dar las gracias. Thank you so much for being here. We're really happy that this tradition is going to continue. Les seguimos. Muchísimas gracias.
This is the 20th annual El Dia de San Juan Festival at Mercado San Agustin on Tucson's west side. The celebration begins with a procession. Father Showery Nara from St. Augustine Cathedral in downtown Tucson offers his blessings.
Give us grace and strength and accompany us today with your angels and saints. And with these processions, we may explore more and more your grace and your power and strength.
This year, I think we should be walking on our knees, begging for rain, for the monsoons to come soon.
Maribel Alvarez is a professor of anthropology at the University of Arizona.
Summer rains are so much a part of the history and the cycle of life of the desert, the blessings of water that is so essential for sustaining life in an arid land, but a land that is also so generous and so wonderful to all of us.
While this year was billed as the 20th annual El Dia de San Juan Fiesta, there are local headlines about the celebration dating back as far as the 1800s.
It's kind of nice to be with other people who want to share that spiritual belief and that sort of sense of positive energy about how important water is and how we have to take care of our resources.
For the harvesting, for drinking, for livelihood, the water is the main source of the living. So that's why they are petitioning God to shower the blessings from heaven in the form of rain. Surely, I believe very soon we are going to get monsoons and the rain, especially after this festival.
According to the National Weather Service, 2016 tied 2014 for the hottest year on record in Tucson. And according to NASA, 2016 was also the hottest year on record for the entire planet.
As you can well imagine, in the middle of the summer, where we are standing today, it has been a very, very warm day, but people still come out to celebrate this tradition.
Gene Einfrank is president of the Menlo Park Neighborhood Association and one of the event organizers.
This is an event that is not easy to pull off because the first thing that comes to people's mind is it's going to be 110 degrees on June 24th. So in a way, that's sort of a showstopper.
The Tohono O'odham people and the Mexican-American community have really taken heart to that tradition year after year, and sometimes it works. And the rain comes a little bit sooner. I hope so. We need it.
Local celebrants are hopeful, but as each year passes, understandably concerned.
Got to have the rain, and I think every year we think it might not happen. But it always does, more or less.
Now that we are the city of gastronomy, sometimes we forget that that's what really makes us distinct and unique, that sense of resiliency and innovation and a real passion for using the land and the resources with a little bit of rain at a time.
For me and for certainly all of my neighbors, it's just a life-giving feeling to experience the first rain, and we celebrate it.
The monsoon brings much-needed rain to southern Arizona. For Phyllis Valenzuela, the rains are a sacred connection to the land and her ancestors. And when the rains come, she says, it is a smell like no other.
We need water to live. Water is sacred to us. The water is life. My name is Phyllis Valenzuela, and I'm a member of the Tohono O'odham Nation. I live here in Sanibel. Our ancestors relied on the monsoon for their farming, to water the fields. I cook here at the farm, and everything I cook with is grown here, so most of my dishes are vegetarian. I harvest off of the land at different seasons. Like right now, monsoon is my favorite, and it's given us some delicious fruit this year. The whirling of the wind, the smell of rain when it hits the ground, it's a smell that you can't smell anywhere else. Me and my grandkids will sit outside and we'll look at the clouds and see figures in there. So far, we've seen a bear sitting there with like a honey pot, fishes. My favorite one that I've seen, to the south, there was these clouds coming out and they looked like people standing in a row. When the rain stops, there's animals that come out, ants especially. I've seen rabbits, a family of quail. I even had a visit from a hawk sitting in my front yard.
At an elevation of more than 9,000 feet and a short drive from Tucson, Mount Lemmon has become a high country getaway for Tucsonans seeking cooler temperatures and the beauty of nature. And while the vast majority of visitors take Catalina Highway to the top, as you'll see, there's more than one way to get there.
When I first retired 20 years ago, had neighbors that had four-wheel drive vehicles, and we decided to drive it because it was supposed to be very interesting. And from there, I happened to get my first ATV. This is my second. And I just naturally wanted to come up here because it is so beautiful.
Oracle Control Road was completed in 1920. It took 3 years to build it, and it was built by the Forest Service in Pima and Pinal counties. And it really opened up Mount Lemmon to vehicular traffic. You know, there were a lot of mines and ranches back there, and previously access was pretty much by horse or mule or on foot. So that was the roaded access up Mount Lemmon Highway until the Catalina Highway was built, the paved road that's on the south side of the mountain range. So it really gave those folks back there a lot of mobility and made quite a bit of difference.
This kind of put Oracle back on the map. It was the last town. In fact, this was the first building you would have seen when you got on what they called the Mount Lemmon Highway. So this is a picture taken in 1930, and it's about, it's really close to our museum. So this is the beginning of the Mount Lemmon Highway, and it's called the Little Smitty Boys and Their Burros. And it shows a Coca-Cola sign that says Mount Lemmon, spelled wrong, 30 miles. Lemmon is 2 M's, and there's 1 M on the sign.
The Oracle Control Road is dirt, and it's called Control because some parts of it were really narrow and there wasn't room for 2 lanes of traffic on it. So they would kind of stagger traffic. It would go up the mountain at these times and come down the mountain at these times, so traffic flow was controlled in that way. If you're going down, you'll start off and you'll be in mixed conifer forest for a little while, and then you open out into those sweeping vistas of the grassy oak woodlands.
I get to just jump in my vehicle and bring binoculars, just sit out here and enjoy. The topography, I think, just offers a lot. There's just different parts of the day that you want to be here because, this overcast is really nice. This is going to roll in. It's just going to give it a different look. And then when we have the sun going, you just see shadows casted and stuff. So, and then we can't forget the snow.
The main differences we're going to see between the road on the south side, the paved highway, and the dirt road on the other side is going to be geological. We're going to pick up many different kinds of rocks, including limestone, which is totally absent from the south side of the mountain. It's on the north side of the mountain. And also the road doesn't descend to the same elevations as it does here. Here the road goes down to below 3,000 feet. On the north side, we get no lower than 4,500 feet. So it never gets warm enough for the saguaros and the palo verdes. On the north side of the mountain, we can find lots of mountain mahogany in the areas with limestone. They're notable for their clever little seeds that look like little tornadoes. Mountain mahogany isn't the only plant that has an affinity for limestone. As you can see in the hill behind me here, there's also a lot of agaves and a lot of this. And this is sotol, also known as desert spoon. It's a fine plant for making walking sticks. This is Pepper Sauce Canyon. It's home to Pepper Sauce Campground. It's best known for its large sycamores, I think. And in addition, there's walnut trees and hackberry trees. And the walnuts are nogales, and they provide plenty of food for coatimundis sometimes a year, and you can see whole troops of coatis underneath the nogales and collecting all the nuts. The sycamore trees often have large hollows, and they are home to spotted owls, which was a surprise that was discovered in the 1990s. We thought spotted owls lived only high up in the mountain.
It's tranquilo here.
It's super chill.
We're nursing students at the University of Arizona working on our master's. As you can kind of see, we were caving. We came out here today to explore Pepper Sauce Cave, and it's about 2 hours of playing basically down in a cave and getting muddy. Just team building. I really wanted to get all of us students together, so I knew this was an opportunity.
We got in there, got super muddy, got down low, and it was super easy to do, and I loved it. There's a huge lake at the bottom that you can dive into if you want. We were not brave enough to do that. I'm not that brave, but it's beautiful. The water's super clear. You can see all the way to the bottom. I am from Long Island, New York, so going from there and never being on the West Coast before to coming to here, complete shell shock, and I love it.
What do you think about having this right here in your own backyard, this road that takes you all the way to Mount Lemmon?
I think it's fantastic. I wouldn't go any other way, personally, if I had the right vehicle. You can't be timid, and you can't be in a hurry.
It's a beautiful hidden gem, this road, especially if you're a photographer or you're a bird watcher, because there's a lot of birds in Mount Lemmon that you don't find on the East Coast. You will love coming out here.
Salvador Duran immigrated to Tucson more than a decade ago, arriving on the music scene atop his stomp box with guitar in hand and harmonica around his neck. He's enamored locals with his Latin music repertoire ever since. But music only tells one part of his story.
Relación entre lo que es el escenario con las personas es como un intercambio de emociones, Estuve en pueblos, en teatros y la música alternativa, el folclore. Y pues también tenía la satisfacción de pensar o de sentir que estaba haciendo algo bien porque me gustaba.
Salvador Duran has always been able to connect with others through music. Before moving to Tucson more than a decade ago, Salvador was a long-time singer in his native Mexico. He says that music helps him cope with the joys and sorrows he left behind.
Es como una medicina, porque en la medida en que uno va formándose, pues en la música te permite o quieres tener un poco de claridad de qué es lo que sucede en tu entorno, qué es lo que sucede en la música.
And that passion of Salvador's is something local musicians couldn't help but notice. Over the years, Salvador has performed with Calexico and most recently, the Mendoza Orquesta.
Y la primera vez que tocamos fue verdaderamente muy festivo, ¿no? Sentí que había un buen espíritu de colaboración.
But music wasn't really the reason Salvador first came to Tucson.
Porque yo más bien vine aquí venía yo a pintar y dejar la parte musical.
He says that art is not only a lifestyle, but a tool that helps him make sense of life.
Para modificar algunas cosas culturales o políticas o de conciencia. Me di cuenta de que cuando uno expresa en la pintura, tienes la posibilidad de decir o de mostrar cosas que tanto hermosas como negativas.
As a young adult, Salvador had experiences in Mexico that shaped his character and influenced his art.
Estuve yo de militante en la Ciudad de México, estuve aquí en la Universidad de Sonora, fui a El Salvador casi como un año. Dentro de eso están los riesgos, como yo que he perdido a un hermano desaparecido, amigos que no se sabe dónde están. Tratar de hacer un cambio más a través de la educación, a través del arte. Entonces, en ese sentido, el arte te puede ayudar. En ese caso me ha ayudado a mí también. Que es recordar todo lo que ha sucedido, no dar pie a que se borren aspectos, tampoco estar con el remordimiento, con el dolor de la pérdida, ¿no? Y de esa forma, de esa relación entre la pintura y la música, hice la frase, canto mi pintura y pinto mi música.
Caminando por las calles de Tucson, fui corriendo para encontrar algún trabajo. Voy contigo, dijo.
Pero aquí encontré la capacidad de tocar a una persona, ¿no? La gente es muy fraternal. Yo me iba a ir a otro lugar que se llamaba Victoria, en Canadá, pero finalmente decidí quedarme en Tucson, porque el confort que sentí aquí fue lo que me hizo decidir quedarme, y pues hasta ahora no me he equivocado, ¿no?
On January 9th, Tohono O'odham elder Stella Tucker passed away at age 71, surrounded by her family. Stella was the public face of the annual fruit harvest in southern Arizona, a Tohono O'odham tradition she learned from her ancestors and then passed on to her 3 daughters. This segment was filmed 25 years ago for the long-running AZPM series, The Desert Speaks.
We usually start around 6 o'clock in the morning when it's nice and cool, and get our canteens filled up and make sure we have a nice cool shirt, long sleeve shirt to wear. We take our stick with us and we walk from saguaro to saguaro and start picking, knocking them down and cleaning them out. Split the pots up and take the fruit out of the pots if they're not quite ripe yet. My youngest daughter's the one in my family that's been here with me, you know, and's been learning. Look at that, Joe. 2 saguaros now. We got almost half a bucket. Boy, it isn't her first time. She's been out here since she's been 3 years old. Every year I'm out here doing it, and I think they probably wonder, why is Mom doing this, you know, out there in the heat all the time for 3 weeks? But I hope that they will continue the culture. Oh, too tall.
See this one?
The culture's been there, always there for years, many, many years. And it only comes once a year, and we respect the saguaros. This is what I like to pick because it's so clean. We respect all the plants and what they give us, such as medicine, the fruit. We may eat it. Some of them is for us to eat, and some of it's used as medicine. And it plays a big role in our lives because this is our home. We were raised here. Usually the picking's about 2 to 3 hours. We get home about 10 o'clock and then we bring it home and our bucket's full, and we soak them in water and prepare it for the coals, for the fire, or put over the fire. And you add some water to it and have enough so it'll boil down to where the fiber and the seeds will separate from the juice. It cooks for about 45 to an hour. And then we'll bring it down off the fire and strain it. Strain it into a screen strainer, and that'll divide the fiber and the seed from the juice and in a separate pot. And the fiber and the seed we lay out in the sun and dry it to prepare it for our jam for later use.
It comes out like this one.
The seeds is used as a porridge, which they call atop. The seeds have to be ground up and then put into this custard or pudding, and then it can be made into candy. And some people use it for chicken feet. We bless ourselves with it on our first picking because we respect the saguaros and how much it's brought us, how much fruit it's brought us, and how much jam and syrup. And then out of the fruit, we make the wine. We have the wine feast, which is also religious culture happening. And then after that, we dance and sing so the rains can come and harvest for the following year. I just don't want the culture to die. I want it to go on forever.
With monsoon rains come some of the most beautiful summer blooms in the Southwest. One of them is the Arizona summer poppy, a close relative to the creosote.
For a plant lover like myself, summer rains are just an incredibly special time because we get this diverse palette of plants that you don't see the rest of the year. The Arizona summer poppy is one of the annuals people are seeing a lot of this summer. It's along roadsides in some of the valleys, and even though it's called a poppy, it is not related to the Mexican gold poppies that we see in the springtime. This is completely unrelated, and it's closely related to creosote bush. They don't open until an hour or two after sunrise. That flower, once open, is pollinated and will not open again the second day. The flowers are very interesting on these. They're 5 petals and orange to our vision, but the neat thing is that we cannot see ultraviolet light, and if we could, like the insects that pollinate it, you would see these nectar guides, these lines that draw the insect towards the center of the plant where there's not only nectar, but the pollen that needs to be transferred from flower to flower. So the Arizona summer poppy has some pretty specific needs as far as where it's going to grow, and that's based on soil type and water availability. Often see them along roads because roads are just like umbrellas. They shed water off to the sides. So even in less than optimal rain years, you'll get summer poppies along the road. If the rains are really good, you'll get them way out into the desert. Just by indications of how many plants we're seeing, that tells us, without even checking the rain gauge, that this was a pretty good monsoon.
Thank you for joining us here on Arizona Illustrated. I'm Tom McNamara. See you next week.